Marxism. When someone says that he is a Marxist, we think of that person as progressive. Person is a very humanistic person. Even people who criticize Marxism in India, they often take this stand that the Marxists are not behaving like Marxists. There was recently a movie in Kerala criticizing Kerala Marxists. There, the criticism on Kerala Marxists is that they are not following the principles of Marxism. But what exactly are the principles of Marxism? Why has Marxism failed in Soviet Union? Why it has failed in the Eastern Bloc, in the East European countries? In China, is it really Marxism that is living there still? We know that today China is a very huge slave market, providing very cheap labor to American and European firms. Then that money is fueled into a very clear class structured society where select minority people, small number of people do excellent science, but it is all built on huge slave labor. But till Marxism, people get attracted. It is a catchy word. How many youths you have seen wearing Che Guevara's shirt, quoting Che Guevara's words? If you are against injustice anywhere, then we are all together. You are my friend, you are my comrade. It is the chic thing. But if you go through the history, exactly what Marxism has done to humanity, you will be surprised. What religions, even dogmatic religions like Christianity, could not do for, let us say, within a few centuries. It took Christianity 2000 years to create the kind of destruction that Marxism created within 100 years. Marxism has been an ideology that has fueled, that has operated some of the most inhuman states in the history of humanity, killing people in millions. Mao, he killed people in like 27 to 40 million people perished in his great jump forward, what he called as the great jump forward. Until Lenin, the reign of red terror was unleashed. Russia underwent a great famine. Millions of people died. Under Stalin, millions of people died in famine as well as in his purges, Stalinist purges. Why? What is the problem with Marxism? Before answering that questions, before going into those questions, let us take this book by Stephen Hawking, A Brief History of Time. In that book, there is actually an answer. Why Marxism fails? There, Stephen Hawking talks about a particular event that happened in Vatican. Vatican wanted to engage with cosmologists. Vatican always does that. It always has a dialogue with science. There was this Pope John Paul II then, he was alive, and he met Stephen Hawking. Then he told Stephen Hawking, it's all okay for you people to research up till Big Bang, but beyond Big Bang, you should never research because that is the realm of God. And Stephen Hawking jokingly, humorously mentions that I remembered the fate of Galileo whose birthday I share, and hence I remained silent. But major papers that were being presented there were talking about going beyond Big Bang, about there was no beginning and no end, that the universe was always there eternally. The papers were about that. I was happy that Pope John Paul didn't understand that. And then he also mentions another event. He says how he wanted to work with a particular Soviet physicist on black holes and certain cosmological models. But the Soviet commissars stopped that. They said, no, you should not do this, because they thought that those cosmological models that they may be working would be against dialectical materialism. What is dialectical materialism? We will see now. Here, Marxism was created by Karl Marx and Friedrich Engels. Karl Marx wanted to consider himself as, wanted him to be known to the posterity as the Darwin of social sciences. In fact, it is said he sent a copy of his manuscript or copy of his book to Charles Darwin, and Darwin very politely just acknowledged that he had received it. And Friedrich Engels, he created the philosophical basis, a kind of an cosmological view for Marxism. And the basis of this is dialectical materialism, a kind of a mystical movement actually, not scientific, a kind of a movement of matter, a particular way in which the matter reacts. And through that evolution happens according to these people. And this is what was given to them. This was the revelation, the basic revelation. And based on this basic revelation, they wanted to straitjacket all human activities into this particular format. Let us take Karl Marx. How did he view society? How did he view history? He saw all our values as superstructure on the production relations that were existing in the society. Now, take the production relations that exist in the society between the producers and between the owners of the means of production and the workers and the masses and all this. There are economic relations. According to Karl Marx, it is these relations that decide the values of the society. So you don't have any universal values. There are no eternal values. There is nothing sanadana here. The values are predicated upon the relations in the production. So pre-agricultural societies would be having some kind of primitive communism. The agricultural societies come up, and then from the agricultural societies to the feudal societies there are different type of values, different type of morality. And then from the feudal society to the capitalist society there is different type of morality and values, and the bourgeois society has its own values. Why these values are created? The values are created to safeguard the dominant sections of the society. So if someone tells you, don't steal, so the communist will tell you, he is telling you not to steal because he is hoarding the money, and your stealing actually creates a kind of socialism, and that is why he is stopping you from stealing. These rich people, they are imposing these values on you. Be moved by poetry. And then the Marxists would tell you, this poetry, for the sake of poetry, is nothing but kind of a opiate. They want all these working masses to sing lullabies and sleep, and this is a bourgeois trick. So, art and literature should actually work as agents of revolution, which in turn is something that Marxism envisions. Who takes this Marxism to the people? Of course, the party intellectuals. So the party and the party intellectuals, they will decide The party ideologues will decide what is good art and what is not good art. What is good literature, what is bad literature. More importantly, ultimately they said they will decide what is good science and what is bad science. Because remember, this is a particular aspect that Marxism shares with Christianity. In fact, if you look very closely, Marxism and Christianity and Islam are not very different. At one level, Marxism is very close to Christianity. At another level, Marxism is very close to Islam, which we will see later. But here, what Marxism does is this. Marx, as I said earlier, was very much impressed by Charles Darwin's Origin of Species when it came. But later, he found something. Darwin's theory of evolution was not helping his cause. He did not care whether Darwin's theory of evolution is true or false. To him, whether Darwin's evolution is helping his particular theory, his particular worldview. That was his yardstick. Truth was not the yardstick. So he decided that Darwin was in his concept of survival of the fittest, which is wrong. It is not Darwin's concept, essentially natural selection. He was only imitating the class structure of England, English world, English society onto the nature. Now, any undergraduate biology student today can tell that it is absolutely wrong. But Marx didn't stop with that. He said that Darwin is no good. But I have seen another one, French evolutionist, and that he would be promoting him. That particular evolutionist was not exactly a very great scientific person, and he also held racist views. For example, he thought that the African people or the black people were kind of a degenerate race. Karl Marx preferred that to Darwin's theory of evolution, because Karl Marx himself was at one particular level a racist. He thought that many of the nations, many of the people are somehow less evolved than the dominant European nations of that time. It was also fitting for India. If you look at Karl Marx's writings in India, you will find something very interesting. He was talking, at one time he was talking of Hindus becoming strong by themselves. In fact, he used the word Hindus, Hindoos, Hindus, who would become strong and they would throw away the British by themselves. And he talked about India being the souls of our religions and souls of our languages, and also the Germans he saw, the ancient Germanic type in the Jats, and he saw the ancient Greek types in the Brahmins. Essentially, the worldview of Karl Marx was basically racist, similar to the racial views of his time. He was not a person who transcended his time. He was essentially a product of his time. That we have to remember. And then he projected the whole thing upon India and said that, but Indian people are stagnant. They are villages of self-sufficient. He doesn't like this self-sufficiency of the villagers. And he said, this has to be broken. It was Asiatic despotism. Their mode of production is very stagnant. All this had to be broken. So he was very happy when the British destroyed the local Indian industry. He even went to the extent of saying that whatever the crimes of British in India, because he knew that there were crimes the British were committing in India, like in the form of great famines that were wiping out people, like the 1877 famine. It was wiping out millions of Indians. There were millions of Indians were dying in the roads. India had never seen such famines under the Hindu kings, because they had a very beautiful irrigation structure and agriculture structure. Network they have created. Karl Marx never understood all this, but he was ready to pass a comment, pass a judgment, telling that whatever the crimes of Britain, she had brought science and civilization to these people who were worshipping Hanuman and the cow, the monkey and the cow. And he saw in Indian religion a great degradation. That was Karl Marx. And Friedrich Engels. If you study Dialectics of Nature, that was written by Engels, Dialectics, the book, you will find that he is saying he believed in inheritance of acquired characters. So, if you are doing something, then that knowledge gets passed on to your children through your genes, through your genetic mechanism. At that time they hadn't discovered genes. Through your genetic mechanism, it gets passed on. So the children inherit acquired characters, physically, mentally. In India, we have been piercing the ears of children for millennia. Still, had there been a single child that was born with the eyes, with the ears pierced? The acquired inheritance was kind of mechanical, incorrect theory of inheritance. But Engels believed in it, and he took it and applied it to entire communities and races and nations. So he said, an 8-year-old European child has the natural ability to learn mathematics than a Bushman, or within inverted quotes I am telling, Bushman and Negro. This was the racial view these people had. So they saw even Russians and the Slav people as inferior, Germans as superior, and the Jews as kind of wicked. Anti-Semitism was there in the writings of Karl Marx, despite the fact that Karl Marx himself was a Jew. But remember, Karl Marx was a Jew who got converted to Lutheran Christianity. So his hatred for Jews was there. And with all this, they were creating a system in which science and human pursuits of art, poetry, everything has to subdue themselves to the dictates of the theory. This is exactly what Christianity also did. What Christianity said? Whatever the science finds, it should adhere to whatever is written in their scripture. So when Galileo says that the earth revolves around the sun, then that particular piece of information goes against the Christian theology structure, the theological structure that they have created. In reality, it is the theology that has to adapt itself to whatever new discoveries that the science brings. But in the case of Christianity and Islamic theology, the theology, the revelation that is present in their books will decide what should be discovered in science. And the nature never listens to the juvenile theologies and ideologies of humanity. This is what happened to Marxism also. Marxism was, in a way, to borrow Richard Dawkins' terminology, Marxism is essentially a mimetic clone and a mutant of Christianity and Islam in its core. So you have, in Christianity, you have the heathens and the believers. In Islam, you have the kafirs and the mu'min. In communism, you will have the bourgeois and the proletariat. You will have the Holy Bible, you will have the Holy Quran, you will have the Das Kapital. And you will have the church, and you will have the Politburo, and you will have the caliphate. You will have this dream of an international caliphate, you will have the dream of international communism. So they had all this similar. And along with that, they all shared a hatred for agriculture. Why I am saying this? Because if you take the word villain, where does it come from? The villagers were the last to get converted to Christianity in pagan Europe. Christianity could spread very easily in urban centers. So in Christianity, the villagers were considered as kind of inferior because the villagers were the last to get converted to Christianity. They were resistant to Christian conversion. Similarly, if you take the term kafir, kafir essentially means the one who hides. And it again comes from an agrarian term because the agrarian people, the agricultural people, they used to hide the seed in the soil. Etymologically it comes from that. So Islam also is an urban religion. It had its resistance mainly in the villages. Even in India it was able to capture Delhi, but it would not be able to move beyond Delhi into other areas. At any particular point of time, the Islamic Empire could not strengthen and root itself except in certain urban centers. Around everywhere else there was Hindu resistance. So again, Islamism also, it has a problem with the villagers and agriculture. Marxism created a complete system where this hatred for agricultural people was very much caught in very beautiful secular jargons. So if you have you ever looked at the statues that they have created in communism of a woman and a man, and the man would be holding the sickle, and the woman would be holding always, the man would be holding the hammer, sorry, the woman would be always holding the sickle, because the sickle represents agriculture and the hammer represents the industrial people, the industrial workers. So it was a very subtle way of saying that the agriculture was seen somehow lower, inferior than the industrial worker. The agricultural laborer was always a woman. And if you actually look at these depictions, it is a very, very subtle but serious hint. The woman would be a little bit lower than the man. Anyhow, the agricultural people always hold their land, and communism was against holding the land. So to them, a person having 5 cents of land and a person having 100 acres of land, they were all the same. They were land owners. And if there is somebody who is very bad in communist terminology, worse than the bourgeois, the landowners. The landowners are considered feudal, the landowners are considered as stagnant people, the landowners are considered as superstitious and exploitative, and they had the name kulaks. In Russia they coined that name. So when the Soviet Union had the power, they started grabbing the land from ordinary farmers and started creating these collective farms. And once you have taken the land from the farmer, once you have taken the cattle from the farmer, and you are told that the worker, he has to become just a worker in the land, he loses all enthusiasm. And then how do you take the produce and how do you distribute the produce, where you will distribute the produce? All these things come into question being. And naturally, when they did the collectivization of farms, the production started falling down. And when the production started falling down, the people, the party system, the local party people, they had to show the person who was up above somehow calculations. Somehow they have to show that communism works, because you see, communism is scientific. Communism is kind of a revealed religion. So communism cannot go wrong. So if you say that because of collectivization of farms the production is going down, then you are doing essentially a blasphemy. You would be exiled to Siberia or worse. So the party people at every level, at district level, they had to show that productions are increasing. So what they did, they took all the grains and they sent it to the urban centers, showing that the production has increased. And what happened because of all that? Famines. Not small famines. Not famines in which a few thousand died. Famines in which millions died. And as people died and died and died, the Communist Party got into completely a negationist mode. They told, no, people are not dying. Outside world was ready to help, but Soviet Union would say nobody was dying. And thus they killed, literally they killed millions of people. And after killing millions of people, they were able to tell outside, they were able to project outside themselves as humanistic people. Now, as they were killing these millions of people, you know what happened? Both in Russia and in China, cannibalism started. Yes, cannibalism started. They started eating humans. First they started eating corpse. They even did another one thing. You produce, but you have to get your food only from the food ration of the Communist Party in Soviet Union and China. So, in order to get the ration, when people died, they hid the corpse and then they went and got the ration for that person also. Then at one particular point they started eating those corpse. Then next came the children. The children were very easier to kill. The children were killed and they were eaten. If there are 3 or 4 children in the family, one child would be killed and would be eaten by the parents and others. Then they started hunting people. If some stranger from another place comes inside the village, they would capture that person and they would kill. In Russian language as well as in Chinese, there are terms within cannibalism. Terms for eating people who are already dead, terms for killing a person who is from outside and eating that person, term for the person who had died in your own family and eating that person. And there were also instances where the parents, when they were about to die, they told their children, okay, don't bury us or don't cremate us, just eat our body and survive. So this is the degradation level to which communism brought the people. Today if you see Russia, today if you see for example China, or if you see the past achievements of Soviet Union like the Sputnik or the space stations they created, remember always all these achievements were created on this totally inhuman killing of the people, annihilation of the people, the entire culture. In this again racism also came to play. If you take China for example, in China they would say that we are all not racist, we are very humanistic, and in fact they would tell all those kind of words outside, but they would create a theory that would justify racism because the Han people, they were more progressive and non-Han people are not progressive, they are still feudal or they are worse, they are religious. So they had to be made progressive by the Han people. In the case of Russia, the Ukraine people were looked down. There was extreme anti-Semitism inside the party, though in terms of theory, Marxists would say that we are not anti-Semitic, we are against anti-Semitism, we are against racism, but the Marxism always discovered a way to embrace racism. In the case of India, if you look at right now, Marxism embraces hate ideologies like Dravidianism. They tell that okay, Dravidian religion is good, Dravidian race is good, the Dravidian religion is essentially nothing but dialectical materialism. This they have always tried, just like Christians. Christians tried to appropriate Hinduism. What did they do? They created this myth of St. Thomas, and then they said that in Hindu religion, the Hindu religious discourse, they would discover Christian elements. They tried this with Hinduism also, Marxists. Marxists tried this with Hinduism. If you read the writings of E.M.S. Namboodiripad, for example, he tried to appropriate Advaita and put it inside Marxism. He almost was like telling Adi Shankara would have become a Communist Party member. It was because he was not there was no Communist Party, he was talking Vedanta. E.M.S. Namboodiripad went to that level of writing. They wanted to contain entire Hindu spiritual greatness into the Marxist template. Volumes have been written. Rahul Sangrudhyayan has written a lot. Either they would try to appropriate or they would demonize. In the case of Romila Thapa demonizes Hindu history and tells that it is all nothing but Brahminism and trying to exploit the masses. That is diminishing of Hindu history. What E.M.S. Namboodiripad and quite a lot of Marxists, they did was trying to appropriate Hindu history. In all this, they have one basic agenda, that is destroying independent pursuit of human spirit for excellence, either in science or in art or in literature. This has had disastrous consequences for humanity at large. It is not about Marxism and anti-Marxism. It is about the consequences Marxism has had for human history. It has put human history behind by at least 5 or 6 decades. In the case of India, it has put India behind by at least a century. Marxism is not a progressive way of looking at history. Marxism is essentially looking through a rear view mirror and projecting whatever is seen in the rear view mirror as the future. For example, Marxism, as I said earlier, was accepting the founding fathers of Marxism, particularly Frederick Engels. He accepted inheritance of occurred characters. It is called Lamarckism because it was first proposed by a French zoologist called Lamarck. And they made it into a kind of a doctrine that should not be violated. At that time, Gregor Mendel discovered genes and genetics became very important. Now notice this. Genes are innate factors in the living organism, and if you are talking about innate factors, some innate factors that can interact with the environment and they can change, but nevertheless they will be innate factors. Then you will also have to accept individual differences, and Marxism said nothing doing, there are no innate factors, everything can be changed by the environment and acquired characters. It's all about acquired characters that are present. And so they stopped teaching genetics. Genetic scientists were hunted down by Marxist government both in Soviet Union and in China. And instead of genetics, they promoted something called Lysenkoism. Lysenko was a quack, a pseudoscientist. He said that everything is acquired, so we don't have to worry about genetics and all, we don't have to worry about plant breeding and all, we don't have to worry about seed collection and seed thing and all. All you can do is you can make the seeds germinate in a healthy way by changing the environment, and he created some pseudo results and it created an international controversy. A lot of genetics at that time, many of them British. Before this controversy came, as I said earlier, Marxism was the in thing, fashionable thing. So many British scientists at that time considered themselves as Marxists. One of them was J.B.S. Haldane. He was a polymath. He was a wonderful orator, excellent writer, brilliant mathematician, and also a great biologist. So he was also a Marxist. Now, when this controversy came, when they saw what was actually happening in Soviet Union, they found that the Marxists were behaving like any fanatical, fundamentalist, dogmatic religious people with power. So what Marxism did, they banned genetics and they said that is bourgeois science. So now they have two types of sciences. You have got a bourgeois science and you have got proletariat science. And you have to support the proletariat science and you have to denounce bourgeois science. So they denounced genetics. The result, the entire agricultural system collapsed. But there is another one tragedy. There was a person who stood against Lysenko. His name was Vavilov. If we talk of Galileo as a great symbol of resistance of science to religious dogmatism, Vavilov should be celebrated as the finest opposition to dogmatic imposition on science. He was the person who stood against Stalin, and he said that this is all nonsense. You have to teach genetics. Genetics is important. he had collected more than 2 lakh seeds, different varieties of seeds. He wanted to fight against the famine. He wanted to feed the people through plant breeding. And what happened? Marxist government arrested him, put him into the Siberian jails, and he died in one of the gulags. He died because of hunger. Yet, he never gave up. He could have told very well, okay, yes, genetics is wrong, Lamarckianism is true, and he could have come out of the jail. He didn't prefer that. He preferred to die in the jail, and he died because of hunger. The man who wanted to fight against famine, that scientist died because of hunger, and that is one of the criminal achievements of this dark theology called Marxism. We can tell a lot of examples like this. Come to J.B.S. Haldane. J.B.S. Haldane at last found that, to his horror, this was what Marxism was. And he also found something else, that the Communist Party of Soviet Union had been using his house for espionage. So he had to run away from England. Where did he come? He came to India. He came to Orissa. He got enchanted by Indian culture. He almost became a Hindu. And he wrote a lot of articles in which he praised the ancient Indian culture, and he also wrote about science and everything. He almost got converted to Hinduism. So that is interesting journey for a Marxist. From a Marxist, he had to see the darkness of Marxism, and ultimately he had to come to India to get the light. The same way in Soviet Union. In Soviet Union, at the time when Stalinism was at the height, a lot of creative minds took their refuge in Hinduism. There is a wonderful science fiction writer. He was also a great anthropologist and a paleontologist, Ivan Efimov. He was considered as the father of Soviet science fiction. He wrote a wonderful science fiction called Andromeda. And in this Andromeda galaxy, he envisioned humanity launching a spaceship to another one galaxy. Name of the spaceship was Veda. He was so enchanted with Hinduism and yoga. He himself, in his next novel, it became an exploration of inner space through yoga. Stalin's police promptly arrested him. KGB was after him, and they say that he was arrested and he was put in jail. Very soon, whatever happened, he died. So again, if you look at the Soviet history, the deep inside Soviet Union, whenever there was this big attack on human pursuit of creativity, you find that somehow the best minds in Russia, they have come to Hinduism. They have found a solace in Hindu spirituality to express their artistic freedom and all. This is then the history of Marxism. Look at Marxism. Marxism has always supported totalitarian regimes. Marxism has killed most number of people. If there is one ideology that is responsible for killing the highest number of people in the 20th and 21st century, it is Marxism. Nazis learnt most of their methodology from Marxists. One party rule, National Socialism, the concentration camps, the propaganda posters, everything they learned from Marxists. Marxism is a very dark evil, but it appeals to your innate goodness. Marxism kills every creative human aspiration. Science has to obey Marxist theology. Art has to abide by Marxist rules. They even created Marxist aesthetics, which is nothing but propaganda. Social sciences are the worst victims of Marxism. whether it is in India or whether it is abroad. And remember, whenever, particularly in India, whenever a Marxist historian is making a statement, make sure what is his party affiliation and make sure what is happening in his original true fatherland. Take the example of D.D. Goswami. Goswami is considered as a great Marxist historian with great insights. I don't think so. He was just creating a deeper Marxist study of Indian culture with a hatred for Indian culture. So, let us take the way he is talking about Ajanta and Ajanta cave paintings. He is saying, oh, look at these Ajanta cave paintings. You don't find working people in Ajanta caves. These monks who were living on the surplus of these working people, they never bothered to show these working people in the Ajanta caves. They have shown bodhisattvas, they have shown the celestial damsels, but they have never shown the working people. Look at it. Why he is usually D.D. Goswami goes all gaga over Buddhism as this early revolutionary movement against Vedic religion and all that kind of things, but why he is talking like this? If you look at the year this particular book was published by D.D. Goswami, and if you look at what was happening in Maoist China, then you would understand. At that time, Maoist China was completely destroying entire Buddhist libraries in the name of cultural revolution. Now, the destruction of Buddhism in China by Mao is getting retro-justified by showing that Ajanta does not have the working populations. It is, they were living on the surplus of the people, but they never bothered to show the people. And Marxism also has a great love for totalitarianism. Yaman Roy is considered as the father of Indian Marxism. He told very clearly that he considers Islamic monotheism as superior to Hindu polytheism. We know the so-called Hindu polytheism is not polytheism, nor are we monotheists. We are not monotheists. But why should somebody say that Islamic monotheism is superior? So he saw the entire Islamic invasion as kind of a liberation. The same thing happened with E.M.S. Namboodiripad later when he was talking about Mapla riots. If you look at the historiography of Kerala, you would find this very interesting. Mapla riots which was essentially genocide of Kerala Hindus, had been transformed into a kind of a freedom movement by Marxists. Volumes and volumes have been written about how the agrarian movement was there, and essentially it is a fight between the people who were having the land and the people who didn't have the land. But actually, if you go through the particular records of Mapla riot, the so-called Mapla riots, essentially it is Mapla pogrom of Hindus, you will find that the Hindu scheduled community, the players, they were also killed by the Islamic fanatics because they refused to convert to Islam. Pulaya people refused to convert to Islam and they were killed. If it was just a class interest, class conflict between the agrarian landowners and the landless laborers, why were the Pulaya people killed? So the point is, Marxism always wants to whitewash Islamic atrocities because it is not opportunistic. Remember that. It is ideological. We have to understand this very clearly. We should never tell the Marxists, you can never accuse the Marxists of duplicity when they support Islam and when they oppose Hinduism. They support Islam because Islam is a totalitarian ideology, political Islam. Political Islamism is a totalitarian ideology and Marxism is a totalitarian ideology. So it sees a kind of fraternity with Islamic politics. It also knows Hinduism is a spiritual democracy, and spiritual democracy or democracy in any form is the opponent of Marxism. So naturally it wants to destroy Hinduism. So the kind of bonhomie, the kind of fraternity that you see between Marxism and political Islam is essentially ideological. We have to understand this very clearly. And both will destroy humanity. Marxism has done enough damage. Every place it touches, it has destroyed. It has never created anything. It has destroyed human population. It has brought human misery, all in the name of equality. Everybody loves equality. So a person always feels happy when he thinks that I am going to work for equality of people, I am going to work for the suppressed masses. That is the hook through which Marxism gets you. Your good intentions, it gets you through that, and ultimately it gets you into the worst hell ever imaginable. So remember this, Marxism is a destructive force. The antidote always is Sanatana Dharma.